is our pop-up audience member. Yay! And it's our lovely friend Tania. Tania is a pretty cool lady, huh? She has started this campaign called Straw Free Tel Aviv, encouraging all these restaurants and businesses to ditch using straws because they're very environmentally friendly, and I think it's super inspiring. And Tania is going to tell us a story. Yeah! Yeah, let's have words here after. I think I saw some straws knocking about. So Tania is going to tell us a story about her travels in Botswana. Let's give her a warm welcome.
So I haven't told this story for about 8 years. It happened 10 years ago. And I've never tried to tell it in 7 minutes, so I have no idea how long that is, but we'll see how we go. So I was in Botswana doing some research. I'm an ecologist and I was working there. And a friend of mine decided, he was a tour guide, and he decided that he wanted to start up tours going into the Okavango Delta, which is like a river system in Botswana. It's the most beautiful system. It's like there's no land anywhere. There's just reeds and rivers and elephants and hippopotami and everything. It's amazing. So he decided he wanted to start doing canoe trips in the Delta, which was not done at that point. So he got together a few of us guinea pigs, and he offered the trip for free. So I was like, hey, sure, I'll go. Like, now he charges $3,000 for this trip, by the way. So I got it for free. And so we were packing up the boat, and we had like a tugboat, a small tugboat, and 3 canoes, plastic canoes, which you sit inside, and you're like level with the water. And we had all our tents and everything, and off we set. And there's 3 of us in the canoes, and then the boat driver, who was Botswana, and he hardly spoke any English, but he knew the river system, so he knew where he was going, and he was our guide in a way. And so the first day we set off in the morning, and we start paddling, and I've never really kayaked before, certainly not for 8 days, which is what it ended up being. And we start paddling, and everybody's going in circles and going in circles and going in circles. And we're like, we're never going to get anywhere. But eventually we start getting our oars and paddling away. But it's really hard work. So eventually we stopped on a little island. There's hardly any land anywhere, so you have to know where the land is in order to know where you're going to be able to sleep that night. Otherwise you're just going to be on the boat. But that's why we had the boat guide, because he knew where the land was. Or so we thought. And so we're paddling away for several hours, and one of the guys gets a little bit tired. He's also never done it before. So he gets on the boat, and we carry on paddling, and the second guy gets on the boat, and so they're tugging the 2 canoes, the 1 canoe, sorry, behind us, and me and my friend, the guy who wants to do this as a tour, are still in the canoes. And it's starting to get a little bit dark, like maybe 3 in the afternoon. It gets dark at 5, but we weren't sure where the island was that we were going to camp. So we decided that the two guys on the boat and the boat guide will go off and chug ahead, find the island, set up camp, and we will continue on our mission in the paddles. So off they go into the blue, into the horizon, and it's just me and the guide. And we're paddling away, and it's amazing, and all you can see is reeds and birds and a few palm trees in the horizon where there is land, but you don't really know where that is, and just more reeds and more river and more tranquility and more silence, and you kind of get into this meditative state where you're just paddling and paddling and paddling, and it's quiet. And at one point I remember stopping paddling and thinking, wow, this is the most amazing place on the planet. I just have to live here. Like, this is where I belong, in this river, in this country. This is it. And we just carry on paddling. And then suddenly there's this, and I didn't really understand what's happening. And I saw that this head of a crocodile suddenly between me and the canoe next to me. And I didn't know what to do, so I'm smashing the thing. And I'm paddling. I don't know whether I was really trying to smash his head or I was just trying to get away, but I was smashing his head anyway. That's how I was like, and I was just paddling and paddling and paddling and paddling. And I look behind me, and the guide is with me, and we're paddling and we're paddling. We're not saying, we're just paddling, 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 paddling. For about 20 minutes, we paddled non-stop, and then it was quiet again.
Oh my
What's going on? What just happened? I didn't tell me there's going to be crocs in this river. He's like, it's Botswana. Of course I river. What do you think? You're an Africa woman. I was like, okay, but you didn't tell me they're going to bite the canoe. He's like, no, it's fine, it's fine. Anyway, so I look at his canoe, and there are bite holes in his canoe, and he is taking on water. I'm not. My boat didn't get done. I was almost bitten by the goat, but I didn't get bitten. This is my almost story. But his boat did get bitten, and it was taking on water, and we're in the middle of the river, and there's no land, and there's no boat that's our emergency boat to, like, you know, our safety boat was not with us. So I'm like, okay, what do we do? He's like, just keep paddling. Okay, just keep paddling. Luckily, eventually the boat driver came back to find us, and they found the island. We didn't tell him that we got bitten by a croc because we didn't want to freak him out. It was day one, and we didn't know what to do. So anyway, we get to the island, we pitch the tent, we go to sleep. I'm like freaking out. Anyway, I was like, okay. And the next day, I decided I'm not going to go on the boat. I'm going to stay on the boat. I'm not going to canoe, but you know, eventually I'll get back on because you got to get back on the horse. So we carry on paddling. They are all paddling. I'm on the boat. Eventually, it starts getting dark, and the guide says to the boat driver, "Are we meant to be heading south because the sun's setting behind us? So that means we're going east, not south." And the boat driver said, "Oh yeah, there was meant to be a turning. Do you know where that was?" And the guy goes, "No, you're meant to know where the river is." And he said, "Well, I think we missed it a few hours back." Because he's always driving on a boat at like 40 kilometers an hour, and now we're paddling really, really slowly. He has no idea how long or how far we've gone. So we've missed the turning. We don't know what to do. We decide to carry on. So we carry on until we hit a ramp, which was basically a dam of leaves, and we couldn't go through. And now it's 6 o'clock in the night, so we have to go back. So I'm going to cut my story very short, but we had to chug all the way back uphill, back upstream. We arrived back at the island where we started in the morning at 4 o'clock in the morning the next morning. We had no fuel. We only had enough food for the next 4 days, so we like basically just completely ruined the whole trip. But because we're all mad, we decided to start again. So we went back to the main island where we'd originally started, filled up with fuel, and I was like, I'm not going to do this again. I'm just going to fly home. You're going to have to find me an airplane and get me off. I'm going home. But they gave me chocolate and they gave me Coca-Cola. And I was like, whoa, let's do it again, let's go, we're going to do it again. So we get back on the literally, I was like, Coca-Cola is amazing, I love it. So we paddled for another 8 days, luckily with no more crocodile stories to interrupt our mission. We paddled 300 kilometers in 8 days. And when we got back to camp, we went back to my friend who's a researcher on crocodiles, and we showed him the holes in the boat, and he told us it was a 4-meter croc. And our boats were 2.5 meters long. So if I'd known that at the time, I wouldn't have carried on, but I did. Anyway, that's the end of the story, but 2 years later, I get an email from this guy, and he's like, yeah, we're now doing National Geographic tours. They cost $3,000. Oh, and last week we got attacked by a croc again. This time I had my pocket knife. That's the end.